अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं डॉक्टर फ़ारिग बुखारी पाकिस्तान इस्लाम पॉजिटिव लीग की चेयरपर्सन आपसे इस वक्त डायरेक्ट लाइव बात कर रही हूँ यूएस से, एरिज़ोना से। आज आई वुड लाइक टू कंग्रेचुलेट नॉट जस्ट द अफ़गान्स बट all the humanity, all mankind, the whole world on this stupendous victory against evil, against the cult of white supremacy that had occupied Afghanistan and is still occupying a lot of other countries that it's not supposed to. I would like to congratulate not just the people of Afghanistan but also of US, of Europe, of Africa, of Asia, on this superb victory where we were finally able to come out of the slavery of the dirty cult of Dick Cheney et al. At whitesupremacy.com. We have been fighting against this cult, trying to get equal opportunities for everybody despite their religion, caste, color, creed. And for some reason, the last century at large was owned by these white supremacists. It was ruled by these white supremacists. What happened in Afghanistan, the whole invasion and the sequelae of the invasion, the war against terrorism after 9/11, it was unfortunately a conspiracy of white supremacists to justify a Muslim genocide and invasion in 7 different Muslim countries of the world. And this is something that General Wesley has testified for many times. And he's not the only one. We have a lot of organizations who are working within US against the white supremacists and their agenda that has led to horrific destruction of more than half of the planet in the form of unjustified wars. Iraq war is just the tip of the iceberg. We have the Syrian crisis, we have the Libyan crisis, we have the Yemen crisis that are still going on, and that are all 100% orchestrated by the white supremacists that are sitting internationally all over the world. And Afghanistan was part of this agenda. So this is a global agenda. This is not just an isolated issue that you can say, okay, Afghans won or the Taliban's won or whatever you want to call them. For me, they're just Afghans. I don't want to brand them as Talibans. They're Afghan nationals. You can call them whatever you want to, but they have the right to procure freedom for their country. Just like the people of any other country would want to be free, they have a right to be free as well. And nobody can take that right away from them. So when I say that this is not just a victory of Afghans, I mean this is the victory of every person on this planet who has worked to give equitable opportunities to everyone, and who has fought against white supremacy, who has fought against these rats of military industrial complex, who has fought against these dirty scumbags who own certain corporations and energy companies, who invaded various nations in the name of democracy when all they wanted at the end of the day was money. So what Talibans are going to do, I don't know. I was just in a forum on Spies Never Quit or Sleep. It was on Twitter, and I participated in it, and there was a think tank, Azim. He was saying that it's too early to kind of congratulate anyone and to be excited and happy, because what if the Talibans do the same things that they did in the 1990s, where they literally paralyzed the civil liberties of women? Well, there are a few things over here that I would like to respond to. Pakistan, as a Pakistani, I don't think we can wait and see, because those who left, who are the puppets of white supremacy, they are not going to wait and see. And one of the biggest reasons why they have de-escalated so easily and left the country is because they have a backup plan. They have a backup agenda. They have a backup full-fledged assault coming our way. Not just Pakistanis, but the rest of the world as well, who believe in equality, who believe in democracy and freedom, and the ability of every person to be able to have access to equal opportunities, in spite of his or her color, in spite of his or her religion, creed, caste, nationality. So this is a war. This is not the war of Afghans against US or Afghans against India or Afghans against allies of US. This is a war between humanity and the evil cult of white supremacy. This is the bottom line. And this is the time where Pakistan should rise as a leader and unite the world. Pakistan must take its leadership role and unite the world and create a narrative of unity for freedom of smaller nations who are being manipulated, coerced, occupied, invaded by the bigger nations, like has happened in the last decade. This is the time to create an algorithm of peace where no one in the future can invade another small nation by creating false flag attacks. This is the time where you pay tribute to the martyrs of 9/11, because today justice was served to the martyrs of 9/11, because it was their martyrdom on 9/11 that was abused viciously, by this cult of white supremacy, by people like Dick Cheney, George Bush, and even Joe Biden, who actually supported Iraq invasion. This is the time that we stand up and rise and say no more. We need an international algorithm of peace where this kind of horrendous play of war crimes, atrocities, cannot be allowed to recur at any cost, against all odds. We cannot walk away with the medal of victory until and unless we as a world unite and say no more. I mean, we cannot wait and see. We waited and saw, and we had APS happen in Pakistan, where we lost more than 150 children. We cannot wait and see. We waited and saw for almost 70 years. We waited and saw for almost 25 years, and we lost a lot of blood. We lost a lot of lives. We lost more than 100,000 lives just in Pakistan. Iraq lost 1 million lives. Yemen, 100,000 children are starving. Libya still in a crisis. Syria still in a crisis. Still, there's no hope, no future. So don't tell me that we can wait and see. No, we cannot wait and see. Pakistan has to rise in the role of leadership, unite the world, and say, this is it. Let's stop branding these people as Talibans. Let's stop profiling these people as Talibans. If Americans can have cordial relations with the monarchs of Gulf, who also tell the women to cover their heads and have converted it into a law, who also comply with the Sharia laws, why are they so paranoid about this set of Afghans just because they want to have Islamic Sharia laws in Afghanistan? How come there are double standards for the world when it comes to Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan? That these people are branded as Taliban, these people are branded as terrorists, these people are branded as extremists just because they want Sharia laws in their country. I mean, seriously, Well, in that context, every monarch of every Gulf country, GCC country, that is technically the ATM bank of US and NATO, that is also an extremist country. If you look at it in that context, because they are not giving the women the same rights that are expected by the Western world. But if you can have cordial diplomatic relations with those people, because what they're doing is in the name of their ideology, then why can't you have cordial relations with Talibans, or I would say just Afghans? Stop calling them Talibans. They're just Afghans. They're Afghan nationals. They have a goal. They're fighting for the freedom of their country, and it's their right. And nobody can take that right from them. Now, having said that, terrorism is a sin in Islam. Terrorism is a sin of humanity and of every religion. And terrorism is not accepted by anybody, whether it is being done by Israel in Palestine, whether it's being done by India in Kashmir, whether it is being done by Burma in Rakhine against the Rohingyas. Terrorism is terrorism. You cannot glorify it. You cannot justify it. It is bad, whether it is done by anybody of any religion, in the name of any religion. Whether it is done by KKK, it is terrorism. Whether it is done by, militias sitting in Africa, also doing in the name of religion, it is terrorism. So stop saying and branding terrorism with just one religion. We have had this argument, we have had this discussion for the last 2 decades, and look where it got us. The world has become so unstable, so destabilized because of this rubbish narrative that was built up by the white supremacist cult, because they wanted a global domination agenda to be achieved. If we don't learn from our blunders and mistakes as humanity, as mankind, these white supremacists who are more united, more disciplined, who are more organized, and who have their tips, their fingertips on nukes, on buttons of nukes, and on satellites that are equipped with one of the most deadly weapons, we are not going to be able to defeat them. We cannot wait and see. We have to act now. We have to acknowledge that, yes, we congratulate the people of Afghanistan on this day that they got freedom. And we also congratulate the people of US. We also congratulate the people of Europe. We also congratulate the people of every country who fought for freedom from this cult of white supremacy that had technically paralyzed the foreign policy of their countries, that had technically enslaved them. So this is not just the victory of Afghans. This is not just the victory of Pakistanis. This is not just the victory of a few people. This is not a Russian victory. This is not a Chinese victory. This is not an Iranian victory. This is not a Turkish victory. This is not a Muslim victory. This is a victory of humanity. This is a victory of mankind against evil. And Pakistan's role is pivotal. It has to play this role now. It has to make sure that the world listens to this victory with a loud bang. When I say a loud bang, it means a loud bang. We should be vocal. We should talk about it. We should raise it in every international platform that learn from what happened in the last 2 decades and make amendments, make laws, so that these things don't happen again. So that Dick Cheney doesn't happen again. So that Rupert Murdoch doesn't happen again. So that Weinstein doesn't happen again. So that Epstein doesn't happen again. So that Dr. Afia doesn't happen again. So that Guantanamo Bay doesn't happen again. So that Abu Ghraib doesn't happen again. So that Iraq invasion doesn't happen again. so that Libyan invasion doesn't happen again, so that Syrian invasion doesn't happen again, so that Yemen invasion and Yemen war doesn't happen again, so that the Kashmiris can get their right of self-determination, so that they can get an end to the occupation of India that's illegal, that's illicit, that's unconstitutional, so that Rohingyas can finally leave the refugee camps in Bangladesh and go back. They can go back to Rakhine and be able to live in their homes. We as Pakistanis, this is the time to talk on every platform. I'm in US nowadays, and I'm talking right now. I'm going to raise this issue that this cult of white supremacy has to be terminated. When I say terminated, you remove their powers, you neutralize them, you end and diffuse their influence, so that an independent, democratic foreign policy comes out of this new government of Joe Biden, and under sheer democratic pressure of American people, the new foreign policy listens to the people of America and not to Dick Cheney, not to Liz Cheney, not to white supremacy, white man's club. This is something we as Pakistanis have to do. This is something we have to do. We have to take the podium. We have to speak loudly, clearly to the rest of the world and say no more. No more. Enough is enough. We are not going to allow you to do any more of this that you have done in the last decade. End of discussion. Allah Hafiz.